Cement producer PPC reported flat full-year headline earnings per share today of 179 cents. The company's executive chairman, Bheki Sibiya, joins us now for a look at their numbers and everything else that has been unfolding in the last couple of months. Maybe focusing on your numbers. Earlier on, we were speaking to a market commentator with regard to the dividend taking a slight cut. And Alec used the word that maybe you're not too streetwise in garnering investor support with the cut in the divvy. Maybe if you can explain that to us, how that decision was taken.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the opportunity to engage with yourselves. We are growing into the rest of the African continent, as you are aware, and we're excited about that growth. Zimbabwe, DRC, Rwanda, and Ethiopia. And for when one grows, one needs to do a bit of own equity plus a project funding. And for us, we made the adjustment on the dividend policy on the basis of that. We would not want to do the garnering of the support at the expense of the company. For us, we want to always act in the best interest of the company.
But he did say on a direct basis your numbers were down if you strip out this is what Jan van Niekerk said to us.
Yes.
So actually your operating level was down 22%, so a cut in the dividend seems to make sense anyway.
I'm glad you agree. Yes, for us it made sense to say really we're getting into the era where we want to say to have it sustained, we need to ensure that we grow far much more aggressively with our African growth strategy.
But the story here, and sure we like to look at the results, but the story is what's unfolding in the boardroom. We have people that we've spoken to at PPC.
Yes.
The morale is shot at the moment, not surprisingly. There's lots of things happening. Are you seeing it yourself as the executive chairman? Do you go into work every day? Do you try and rally the troops?
We do rally the troops, but when one looks at what we are doing, really, we are continuing to grow, and the international team is excited. I think the domestic team is excited. The issue of the former CEO is indeed troublesome. For us, though, what we look at is, here is somebody who was performing well, and we're excited generally about a number of things. He makes a judgment call, which the board looks at and say, let's help deal with this issue in a manner that is going to be lawful, procedural, and fair, and he feels it is going to slow him down. He tenders the resignation, which we reluctantly accepted, and after reluctantly accepting his resignation, and then he comes back, withdraws it, and has a fight with the board. The board looks at it and say, why did you resign if you did not want to go? Because the CEO, again, has access to the shareholders at any time, and therefore he didn't have to resign to have access to the shareholders. He had just to say, shareholders, here are the challenges that I have, and let's deal with them appropriately.
What do you see as the board's remit? And I ask this, Warren Buffett, for instance, says your remit is to appoint the CEO and to make sure that the CEO follows the strategy of the company. That's what he says. Yes. Where do you feel on this?
We agree with him that is our role. However, we're dealing with the executive director. The removal of executive director, Alec, as you know, it requires certain Companies Act procedures. He was not following those. And for us, we're looking at it and say, how do we explain to the world, how do we explain to the shareholders the termination of the CFO for her doing her job and doing her job well? The very fact that maybe there may be a stylistic issues between her and the chief executive.
Well, he said that in his announcement that came out yesterday, he said that she basically behaved in such an extent that the funders who were coming in to support you in attractive funding, according to him, were so unhappy with her that they wanted to withdraw. Surely that must worry you that to the degree that you should do some investigation into it.
May I tell you what we know rather than what he says? He had come to the board through the deal committee, which is the investment committee of the board, and come up with one alternative source of funding. And we looked at that source of funding. We were excited about that source of funding, and so was the CFO. But the CFO said, acting in the best interest of the company, she needs to look for alternatives because she needs to promote the best interests of the company, and that's what she did. And whatever disagreement, strangely, those potential funders were still talking to both of them because our Africa growth strategy is hungry. For us, though, I think the discussion is not about the former CEO, but it's about our results, and we're excited about our results.
So has this spat not had any negative impact then on your discussions as well as sourcing funding?
it hasn't. It may have just slowed it down, but let's look at it. We have 4 EPC contracts. In Zimbabwe, where we're going to be building a mill of 700,000 tons per annum, that is on track. In Ethiopia, we have acquired 51% of Habesha, and we're building a mill which is 1.4 million tons, funding fully funded. DRC, again, 1 million tons, fully funded. Rwanda, we are 90% done, fully funded. The Algeria, we're busy with the feasibility study at this stage. It's going to be concluded in the first quarter of 2015, and that's when the board will take a decision. And therefore, for us, at the moment, we are not really in need of any funding.
So these funders that Ketsa Gordon spoke about, are they only related then to Algeria?
We were exploring them for Algeria and any other opportunities for our pipeline. And so it's something we are going to match the funding to when we need it. So and for us, we're confident.
Why was it needed to be done in such a haste? You say that your CFO wanted to investigate and look for alternatives. Why did it have to come to this?
It is my understanding that we are going to be seeing the former CEO. You need to ask him that, because honestly, he was unnecessarily hasty, tripped himself in the process, and he got the company into the situation which it is, and it is really deeply regrettable.
Bheki, when you look at the share price, since he left, it's been going one way. Again, today, after today, these results, it fell still further.
Yes. When we look at it, though, he has been negatively talking about the company. Look at the former CEO. We are releasing the results. These results are his results. His last day at work was on the 22nd of September, and our end of the financial year is 30th of September. So these are his results, which he delivered, and he continued to talk negatively about the company. And for us, we have been saying, and we continue to say, it has the flavors of a delinquent director, because there is delinquency in what he's saying.
Reflecting on his results, what do you make of his performance?
His performance, we need to be saying, look at the environment. The GDP growth of 1.4%, and the cement is more aligned with that. We had a 5-month strike in Rustenburg, and we sell a lot of cement in Rustenburg. We have a intensifying competition, and we had a rainy season which was longer, and therefore somehow it's understandable. However, are they as sterling results that we may need to say he can walk tall and proud? Not necessarily, but for us, we are saying our growth really is in the African continent, and therefore we look at the price and we say it is discounting our Africa growth strategy. And for us, though, we're having the projects coming on stream in 2015, Rwanda, 2016, it is the DRC, Ethiopia, and Zimbabwe, and therefore we're excited.
Are these not projects that he pioneered, though?
No. We actually started the Africa growth strategy in 2011, and we ran with it in 2012, and he joined us in November 2012. He became the CEO in January 2013 when the Africa growth strategy was in place. And so he inherited it. The board owns the strategy. The board is committed to the strategy. The board is saying even the successor to the former CEO is somebody who is going to buy into the strategy, who is going to be passionate about the African continent, the M&A, and indeed who is going to be a good leader of men and women.
Who is that successor going to be?
We are in the process of seeking the successor. We have just shortlisted 10 people. We're going to interview them early in December, and we want to conclude that process after that watershed special shareholders meeting on the 8th of December.
And very quickly, on the 8th, what are the votes stacking up for on your
we are continuing to inform our shareholders so that they are informed, and the postal strike is not helping us in this regard. And so for us, we are quietly confident that the current board is going to be retained. However, we say corporate governance is going to win on the 8th, because the decision of the shareholders will be respected, and it will be the right decision, whatever right it will be.
And the PRC is on board from your perspective?
They are on board together with others, but we are not their spokesperson, and they will speak at the appropriate time.